Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the walk. Today is Thursday, August 29th, and we have made it to Ezekiel 10. Once we have finished 10, we are more than 20% through the book of Ezekiel. And I had to look back to see when we started. We started Ezekiel on July 8th. So it has taken us, I would say about 7 weeks to get through 10 chapters. But I think this deep dive has been very, very helpful. So today I don't have nearly as many notes as I have had in 10, I don't have nearly as many notes as I have in the past, because it's almost like Ezekiel is re-describing what was in Ezekiel 1. And that's the biggest reason why I went back to see when we started. Because if you go back to that first week, starting July 8th, you will get all of the information and the in-depth study of that vision in chapter 1. And he kind of describes it all again in chapter 10. I didn't want to give you exactly the same information. So instead, I'm referring you back to those videos, and we're going to kind of go through 10 a little bit more quickly because I just don't want to repeat myself. Those videos are already there for you. So in Ezekiel 10, starting in verse 1, it says, "Then I looked, and behold, on the expanse that was over the heads of the cherubim, there appeared above them something like a sapphire, in appearance like a throne." Now in Ezekiel 1, it said beryl, B-E-R-Y-L. Beryl is another word for sapphire. Sapphire is another word for beryl. We're starting to get into this description of what he had seen in Ezekiel 1 because it's coming back around. I'm taking a cough drop, excuse me. "And he said to the man clothed in linen, 'Go in among the whirling wheels underneath the cherubim, fill your hands with burning coals from between the cherubim, and scatter them over the city.'" So if you want a really good discussion about those wheels, they're back in Ezekiel 1 on July 8th and the following days. So as we look at that, I just copied and pasted the verses from 119, 20 to 21 here. We have the living creatures, and the wheels went beside them. They rose from the earth. The spirit wanted to go, and they went, and the wheels went in every single direction. So we've got these wheels going in every direction. That's God's omnipresence. He can go anywhere he wants. He is everywhere all at once. We've got and in Ezekiel 1, we have the eyes that God sees and knows all, and the wheels are on the throne, which means his majesty and authority goes everywhere and sees all. Now, these burning coals, what do they represent? They represent judgment and destruction. And the Babylonians destroyed the city. How did they do it? They did it by fire. In the Cultural Study Bible, it says that Ezekiel 10 echoes some elements from the previous text. The 4 living creatures of chapter 1 are called cherubim here in Ezekiel 10. Modern scholars have compared these creatures with winged sphinxes and other composite quadrupeds pictured as supporting the throne of Near Eastern kings and serving as pedestal gods. That Ezekiel does not immediately identify the creatures as cherubim indicates that some difference sets them apart. The Lord, too, is said to ride in a chariot. In the vision of divine judgment in Daniel 7:9, God's throne is equipped with wheels. Now, as we continue in verse 2 of chapter 10, "And he went in before my eyes." This is the man clothed with linen that had that writing desk. "Now the cherubim were standing on the south side of the house. And when the man went in, and a cloud filled the inner court, and the glory of the Lord went up to the cherub, to the threshold of the house." We just talked about that earlier this week. "And the house was filled with the cloud, and the court was filled with the brightness of the glory of the Lord." So the brightness of the Lord is going ahead of them. And what that means is that the focus is that the departure of God's glory and presence from the temple and the city of Jerusalem. First, it left the sanctuary, then it starts to leave through the outer parts of the temple. Why is it going through that process? Well, first of all, the glory of God left the temple because of the sin and idolatry, and I'm getting this from the Fire Study Bible. Secondly, because whenever the Church of Christ today imitates the example of Israel by sinning and following ways of its enemy, God will also remove his glory. Think about when that spirit of religion infiltrates a church and that church is suddenly no longer seeing God's glory. That's what's happening. Third, we must, with passion, desire God's glory and presence at the same time. Continue to have a strong hatred for sin and immorality, particularly in our own lives and in the church. Now, having said that, we need to hate the sin, but still show the love of Jesus Christ to the sinner. We have to keep in mind, the sinner does not belong to Christ. They are not going to be held to the standard that a follower of Christ is held. We need to be showing them God's love and God's grace. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.